Welcome to the Distinguished Lecture Series organized by HKU Wang Haoman Center for Exploration. Today, we are privileged to have Dr. Jane Goodall to be our speaker, who will deliver a talk on exploring the unknown, the passion to understand and inspire the world. To kick off our event, it is my pleasure to introduce Professor Zhang Xiang, the President of the University of Hong Kong, for the opening remarks. Professor Zhang, please.
Dr. Goodall, Haoman, Dr. Fang, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, and welcome to the first Distinguished Lecture Series organized by the Hong Kong U Wang Haoman Center for Exploration. I'm deeply honored to be here today to not only celebrate the beginning of a truly inspiring series, but also to welcome our inaugural speaker, Dr. Jane Goodall, a world-renowned scientist and conservationist whose pioneering work continues to redefine our relationship in the planet. By the way, I was looking at Wikipedia, and her actually, one of the definition of her work is defining what is human. Dr. Goodall's groundbreaking research on chimpanzees has transformed our understanding of primates and indeed of the nature world. Her work has taught us the importance of compassion, empathy, and how all living things are connected with each other in this planet. Beyond her scientific achievements, Dr. Goodall's decade-long advocacy for environmental conservation and animal welfare has inspired countless individuals across the globe to take positive actions to protect our planet. Dr. Goodall's spirit of exploration and dedication and love for the nature are what makes her the perfect fit for the inaugural distinguished speaker of the Wang Haoman Center for Exploration. As you all know, exploration is the essence of human spirit. Established just last year, our center is dedicated to cultivate a spirit of exploration, both physical and intellectual. We encourage all our students to embrace the mindset of explore. Go out and see the world. And more importantly, safeguard our planet for all creatures, great or small. As we welcome Dr. Goodall to the stage, let us be reminded of the power of curiosity, the importance of persistence, and how the lifelong journey of one individual can become a beacon of hope and inspiration to all. On behalf of the University of Hong Kong, I sincerely thank Dr. Goodall for joining us today and for making the world a better place. We are truly honored to have her here to share her wisdom and experience with us. Thank you.
Thank you, President Zhang. Please return to your seat. At this time, please have the photography team come to the stage for a group photo. Thank you once again. Now, it's my pleasure to invite Professor Derek Collins, the Associate Vice President for Cultural and External Affairs and Director of the Wong Hao-Man Center for Exploration, for introducing our Exploration Center and the honorable guests. Derek, please.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I am so excited that you all could make time for today's event. As the president said, we are truly honored to have Dr. Goodall with us today. I want to just take a moment and explain something about what we're doing at the university with our Wong Hao-Man Center for Exploration. We have the legendary Dr. Wong Hao-Man with us today, but last year we pioneered a collaboration with Dr. Wong, and the idea was to create a center for exploration at a university campus with a leading explorer who would then be able to sort of work with students, help lead trips, or at least inspire trips, trips for students, trips for professors, and to hopefully convey something of the spirit of curiosity, the spirit of discovery to young people. There's really nothing quite like this at any other university in the world. If you're at another university, for example, it's very easy to take a trip through a third party, but few or no universities that I'm aware of have a center like this on campus. And I just want to say further that, Dr. Wong Hao-Man has been doing research in China. He started his China Exploration and Research Society 50 years ago. And what we decided to do last year was see if we could bring this into the university life of students and researchers and truly spark something different, something outside the classroom by design, something that would allow students to really discover something about themselves as well as the world around them. We have sites in Yunnan, in Shangri-La. We have sites in Alishan, Taiwan. We have sites in Hainan. We have sites in Palawan, Philippines. We have a site in Myanmar. And we hopefully will have a site within the next year or so in Bhutan. All of these sites, at the appropriate time and when it's safe, are available for students to be able to travel and do research, discovery, and exploration, genuinely exploration. In the case of Palawan, we have boats. We can go from one island to others. So this is about discovering the natural and even the world of cultural heritage. And this is what the Center for Exploration at Hong Kong U is all about. So I want to thank Dr. Wong, and I want to thank his chair of his board, Dr. William Fung, for trusting the University of Hong Kong to be the place where we launch this incredible initiative. Today's talk is not just brought to you by us, but it's also done co-organized with the Jane Goodall Institute in Hong Kong. And I want to thank Mr. Tony Che, who's CEO of that institute, for working so diligently with me to make this happen. And then finally, I'd like to thank the Lee Hyson Foundation. This is recent news, but should be exciting as well. We've just literally 3 days ago won a grant, a pilot grant with the Lee Hyson Foundation to see if we can work with schools, secondary schools in Hong Kong, and young students, particularly those who are already involved in the Roots and Shoots initiative of Dr. Goodall, but also to help take them to some of these sites, the teachers, and then have them bring that experience back to the classroom for students with whom they might then travel locally. Because we also have sites in Tayo and Sheko, and of course, once you're sparked by this spirit of discovery, you'll realize it's literally around you. You don't even have to travel to truly be engaged in the world around you. So I'd also like to thank the Lee Hyson Foundation for sponsoring this talk today. I'm now very pleased to have the honor of introducing our most esteemed guest of the day, the world-renowned ethologist and conservationist, Dr. Jane Goodall, who is, as has been mentioned, the first distinguished speaker in our new series offered by the Center for Exploration. More than 60 years ago, Jane Goodall first set foot on the shores of what is today Tanzania's Gombe National Park to begin her pioneering chimpanzee behavioral studies. In the past 6 decades, this research has transformed scientific perceptions of the relationship between humans and the rest of the animal kingdom. Today, Jane's mission has evolved into a quest to empower every individual to make the world a better place for people, other animals, and the planet we all share. In 1977, Dr. Goodall established the Jane Goodall Institute, now a global leader in chimpanzee and habitat protection, through her innovative community-led take care conservation approach. The JGI, the Jane Goodall Institute, operates through 25 global institutes around the world, and in addition, it leads the way in trailblazing science-driven programs, advocacy, animal welfare at its sanctuaries and beyond, as well as empowering young people of all ages through Dr. Goodall's Roots and Shoots program, now in nearly 70 countries worldwide. The program itself is now in its 33rd year. Jane is a United Nations Messenger of Peace and Dame of the British Empire. Her many awards and honors are simply too numerous to list, but here I include the Kyoto Prize, the Medal of Tanzania, the Légion d'honneur, and the Templeton Prize. A prolific author, Jane's latest book, The Book of Hope, A Survival Guide for Trying Times, was published in 2021. The latest of many films of her films is Reasons for Hope, a large format film which premiered in May of 2023. Before I invite Dr. Goodall to the stage, we're going to begin with a short film.
It's been an amazing journey, this life of mine. This planet has filled me with the wonder of all living things, great and small. We cannot ignore this earth that surrounds us, that feeds us, shelters us, replenishes our bodies and our souls, and stretches our imaginations, where animals, plants, air, water, all care for us. We're all interconnected. People, animals, our environment. When nature suffers, we suffer. And when nature flourishes, we all flourish. I do believe in the possibility of a world where we can live in harmony with nature, but only if every one of us does our part to make that world a reality. So that when you look back over your journey, your life, you can truly say, I did make a difference.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in extending the warmest possible welcome for Dr. Jane Goodall.
Well, thank you very much for that introduction, and thank all of you for being here and for giving me a nice warm welcome. So I was asked to talk about exploration as it has the sort of exploration that I have known in my life. And it's quite interesting. I've never talked about this before, but when I look back over my life, there are distinct phases of exploration, and they're not all the same. First of all, when I was a child, I was born loving animals, all sorts of animals. People say, where did that start? I don't know, I was just born that way. And I was very lucky to have a mother who supported this passion for animals, so that my first exploration that I remember really well, I was taken by Mum to a holiday in the country on a farm. We lived in London at the time, not many animals there, so it was really exciting. A proper farm, not one of these intense factory farms. And my job was to help collect the hens' eggs. So the hens pecked around in the farmyard, and there were about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 little hen houses, a little bigger than this, where they slept at night. And around the edge were boxes they went into the hen house, into the box to lay their eggs. So I had to go around, lift up the lid, and put the egg, if it was there, into my little basket. Well, apparently I began asking everybody, where is the hole on the hen big enough for the egg to come out? I couldn't see a hole like that. I was 4 years old. So nobody answered me. And what I distinctly remember, it was a very early exploration. I saw the hen going into the hen house, and I must have thought, she's going to lay an egg. So I crawled after her. Well, that was a mistake. She flew out with squawks of fear. But now I'm on the path of discovery. It's an adventure. I go into an empty hen house, and I wait, and I wait, and I wait. I waited for 4 hours. If you know a little child of 4 years old, that's quite spectacular. But my patience was rewarded, and I saw the hen come in and lay her egg. So by this time, the family had no idea where I was. They were about to call the police. My mother saw this excited little girl rushing towards the house, and instead of grabbing me and saying, "How dare you go off, where have you been? Don't you do it again?" she saw my shining eyes and sat down to hear the wonderful story of how a hen lays an egg. The importance of a supportive parent is demonstrated there, because I was showing the first signs of a little scientist, curiosity, asking questions, not getting the right answer, deciding to find out for yourself, making a mistake, not giving up, and learning patience. It was all there, and a different kind of mother might have crushed that early scientific exploration, and I might not be here now. So I have my mother to thank for many, many things in my life. But my first explorations, not only watching the hen lay an egg, but in the garden around our house, watching and exploring the ways of the birds and the squirrels and the insects. I remember loving jumping spiders and all kinds of other creatures, exploring the cliffs that led down to the sea, always with my dog Rusty. We were gone every moment that I was not at school, out there exploring, finding the wonders of nature. And I was 10 years old when I read the book Tarzan of the Apes, and there was no TV back then. Of course, being a little romantic girl of 10, I fell passionately in love with that wonderful Lord of the Jungle. And what did Tarzan do? He married the wrong Jane. Yes. So, but anyway, that was when my dream began. This was my great exploration of the future. I would grow up, I would go to Africa, I would live with wild animals, and I would write books about them. There were no girls being scientists like that back then. It wasn't easy. We didn't have money. World War II interrupted everything. And eventually, though, I left school. I did really well at school. I liked exploring all the different subjects. And we didn't have money for university or college. Had to get a job. Got a boring old secretarial job after doing the course. And then came opportunity, because my mother had said, "Jane, if you really want to do something like going to Africa, you're going to have to work really hard, take advantage of every opportunity, and if you don't give up, hopefully you find a way." So the opportunity was a letter from a school friend, and she invited me out to Kenya, where her parents had bought a farm. Well, couldn't save money in London, where my job was, went home, got a job in a hotel around the corner as a waitress. And that was another kind of exploration, because all the other wait staff were professional, and they were all Irish Catholics. And I'd never met people like this before. So that was a cultural exploration. And it was wonderful. I had such fun. And anyway, finally I had enough money. And then came a real adventure. That was, in those days, there were planes, but there were not many, and they were very expensive. So we went by boat. And the boat should have gone through the Suez Canal, but there was a war between Britain and Egypt at the time, and so the boat had to go all the way around Cape Town and up to Mombasa. So the journey took about a month, and it was just a magical journey. The first place where I set foot on African soil was Cape Town. And this seemed like a wonderful exploration because there were the natives dressed up in their native costume, doing their dancing. I didn't realize it was just for tourism. How could I? I was 23 years old, very naive at the time. And so Mum had two friends there, and they said, "Don't worry, we'll look after Jane." So I went around for 2 days with them while the boat refueled or whatever it did. And I noticed on the backs of the seats in the park and on the doors to the hotel and the restaurant, these words in Afrikaans, "Stegs blank." So I said, what do these words mean? White people only. I wasn't brought up that way. My grandfather was a congregational minister, and we judge people not by the color of their skin, their language, their culture, but as who they were as human beings. So I couldn't wait to leave Cape Town. Got to Nairobi, stayed with my friend, and then somebody said, if you're interested in animals, you should meet Louis Leakey. So I went to meet him. He was curator of the National Natural History Museum at the time. And he took me around, he asked me lots of questions. And because I'd read everything I could about African animals, I could answer most of his questions. And so amazingly, that boring secretarial job, well, his secretary had just left, he needed a secretary, and there I was. And so I was now surrounded by people who could answer all my questions about the animals, the plants of East Africa. And Leakey must have seen something in me, because first of all, he invited me with him on one of his expeditions onto the Serengeti Plains to the now very famous fossil site, Olduvai Gorge, where some of the earliest human remains have been found. At that time, no human fossils had been found, just those of long extinct prehistoric animals. And back then the Serengeti was so different. Talk about an exploration. All the animals were there. You couldn't walk a step without bumping into some kind of little creature scurrying about. And in the evening, after the hard day's work digging for fossils, I was allowed to walk out with the one other young girl onto the plains. And on this occasion, something made me look behind, and there was a young male lion, fully grown, just with the mane beginning to sprout on his shoulders. And he was standing still, slightly waving tail, and I think he was just curious. He'd never seen anything like me and Gillian before. She panicked. She said, "We must go and hide in the vegetation there." I said, "The lion will know where we are. We won't have a clue where he is." "No, he's just curious. We must walk up onto the plains so he can see us and see we mean no harm." Apparently that was the right thing to do, because it was that evening around the campfire that Leakey decided to ask me if I was prepared to go and live with and learn from not any animal, but the one most like us, the chimpanzee, who shares 98.7% of the expression of our DNA. So it took a year. First of all, we had to get money, and remember, I hadn't been to college, but finally Leakey got 6 months' money from an American philanthropist. Secondly, Tanzania back then was still Tanganyika, part of the crumbling British Empire. And so the British authorities were not prepared to take responsibility for a young girl going out in the forest. They said, no, no way. But Leakey never gave up. So in the end they said, oh, all right, but she can't come alone. Who volunteered to come? That same amazing mother. She came with me on what has to be the most amazing, magical adventure of my life, learning about the chimpanzees of Gombe National Park, and learning at the same time to explore the very rugged terrain. It's hills going up from Lake Tanganyika, which is part of the Great Rift Valley, the western branch. And so the hills go up steeply, and then there are these valleys in between. So it's quite a place to explore. And remember, it was just me. I mean, Mum was in the camp, but I was out every day by myself from morning till night. And what an amazing adventure that was. It was pretty grim for the first 4 months, though. And I was really glad Mum was there because she boosted my morale. Chimps took one look at me and disappeared into the forest. I knew, given time, that I could gain their trust, as I had with the birds and squirrels at home. But did I have time? It was unfortunate that Mum, who'd been telling me, you're learning more than you think. You found that peak, and from that peak, you're able to watch the chimpanzees traveling around, sometimes alone, sometimes a mum and her offspring, sometimes two mothers and their young, sometimes a group of males hanging out. We now know they patrol their territory. And sometimes members of what we now call a community of about 50 individuals, all coming together with lots of excitement when a new food becomes ripe. So, yes, I was learning all that. I was learning their calls, but that wasn't what I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn about them as individuals, something which science wasn't doing at the time. How sad that Mum left just 2 weeks before the breakthrough observation, when the one chimpanzee who began to lose his fear of me, who I named David Greybeard, he had white hair on his chin, and he was a very calm individual. And on this one amazing day, I saw him reaching out, breaking off grass stems, and using them to push into a termite mound, leaving them there for a moment, pulling them carefully out, and picking off the soldier termites, biting on with their mandibles. Sometimes he picked a leafy twig, and to make that into a tool, he had to carefully strip the leaves. So David Greybeard was using and making tools. If you saw something like this today, it wouldn't be exciting at all. We know many animals use tools, and some make them. But back then, it was shattering, because science, Western science, had decided that humans, and only humans, used and made tools, and they had described us as man the tool maker. That was supposed to differentiate us from other animals more than anything else. Well, David Greybeard used tools the following day. It was the beginning of the termite season. And his best friend Goliath, I learned, was top-ranking male. I saw him using tools. And then as other individuals gradually lost their fear, I could watch them not only using and making tools, but I could also learn about them as their different, vivid personalities. And I could learn much of their behavior that was so like ours: greeting, kissing, embracing, holding hands, patting one another, begging for food. Two males competing for dominance, and it is a very male-dominated society, and there's a lot of competition to become top-ranking or alpha. And so two males will stand upright and they'll swagger from foot to foot, and their hair will bristle, and their lips will bunch in a furious scowl, and they may shake their fist. And if that doesn't remind you of some human politicians, well, then you haven't watched television much. I particularly loved watching the relationship between a mother and her growing child. And chimpanzee children, like our children, have a long childhood. The child suckles, though less frequently, rides the mother's back, though less frequently, and sleeps with her in her nest at night until the next child is born, when the elder one is about 5 years old. And even after that, the older one remains emotionally dependent on the mother. So why this long childhood? Because chimp children, like human children, have a lot to learn. Of course, they don't go to school, but they go to the school of the forest. They learn by observing, by imitating, and of course, through experience. So it was after I'd seen the tool using that the National Geographic decided they would continue to fund my research after the first 6 months grant ran out. And it was the first time that I really felt, wow, I'm following my dream. There's money for me to continue to follow my dream. I will be able to follow this exploration of chimpanzee behavior over the coming months and years. I didn't expect back then, I must say, that we'd still be studying those same chimpanzees 64 years later, which we are, by the way, and that is continuing to be an incredible exploration. But I was been with them about 2 years, and I get a letter from Louis Leakey telling me that he picked me because I hadn't been to university, because my mind hadn't been compromised by the very reductionist attitude of science towards animals. But now he said, I want your scientific colleagues to take you seriously, and you've got to get a degree, and there's no time for an undergraduate degree, and I've got you a place in Cambridge University to do a PhD in ethology. I didn't even know what ethology was. It's behavior, of course, but when I got there, you can imagine I was nervous. And think how I felt when those erudite professors told me I'd done everything wrong. I shouldn't have given the chimpanzees names. They should have had numbers. That was scientific, didn't I know that? I shouldn't talk about them having personalities, minds, or emotions, because those were unique to humans. I couldn't have empathy for them, because a scientist has to be coldly objective, and you can't be objective if you're showing empathy. Well, fortunately, I had a fantastic teacher when I was a child who taught me that in these respects, these erudite professors were completely, totally, utterly wrong. That was my dog, Rusty. You can't share your life in a meaningful way with a dog, a cat, a rat, a rabbit, I don't care, a bird, and not know that we are not the only sentient, sapient beings on the planet. And we now know so much more about these things. I don't have time to talk about it now, but we know so much about the intelligence of pigs. We know about the intelligence of rats. I've got great stories, not just chimpanzees and gorillas and orangutans, not just elephants and whales, but right down to octopuses and even some of the insects. And trees can communicate too. It's a very exciting time for any of you young people who want to explore the animal world or the vegetable world. It's really exciting. Doors have opened up, ways to explore into this magical world, countless. So I got my degree. I went back to Gombe. I had the best days of my life, and I was able to explore the the complex ecosystem of the rainforest, where every plant and animal has a role to play, where they're all interconnected. And understanding that ecosystem has helped me a great deal in understanding the problems that we face in the world today. So there I was, having the best time of my life. So why did I leave? I realized in 1986 at a big conference that right across Africa, chimpanzees were disappearing and forests were being cut down. I got some money, again from National Geographic. By then there were 6 other chimp study sites across Africa, and I visited them to learn more about the problems faced by the chimps. I learned about the bushmeat trade, the killing of mothers to steal their infants for the illegal wildlife trafficking, to sell them as pets or for entertainment, and in those days for medical research. But at the same time, I was learning a lot about the plight of the people living in and around chimp habitat, the crippling poverty, the lack of good health and education systems. And it came to a head when I flew over the tiny Gombe National Park. And when I began in '60, it had been part of the great equatorial forest belt stretching across to West Africa. By the mid-1980s, I looked down on Gombe National Park as a little island of forest surrounded by bare hills. More people living there than the land could support, too poor to buy food from elsewhere, struggling to survive, cutting down the trees to try desperately to make money from charcoal or timber, or to make more land to grow food to feed their families or to sell. That's when it hit me. If we don't find ways to help these people find ways of making a living without destroying their environment, we can't save chimpanzees, forests, or anything else. And that began our program, Take Care, or Tukari as it's known. And again, there's no time to go into this, but it's very holistic. And not only does it include ways of restoring fertility to the land without the use of chemicals, but scholarships to give girls a chance of secondary education, microfinance, so that poor villagers can take out a tiny loan to start their own small, environmentally sustainable business. And it's been super successful. And we've introduced new technology, GIS, GPS, satellite imagery, so that the villagers can make land use management plans. And they have now understood in all 104 villages throughout Chimp Range in Tanzania that saving the environment isn't just for wildlife, as most conservationists were saying at the time. It was also for their own future. That program is now in 6 other African countries where JGI works to study chimpanzees, and everywhere it's changing lives. By this time, I'm doing another kind of exploration, not such a pleasant one at all. I'm traveling around the world and I'm trying to raise awareness about what's going on. I'm trying to raise funds because obviously these programs cost money. And at the same time, I'm learning about all the harm that we have inflicted on this planet. You're an educated audience. You don't need me to talk about what we're doing to this planet. People often ask, what's the biggest difference between humans and other animals? I think it's the explosive development of our intellect. Animals, as I say, are way more intelligent than we used to think, but they can't design a rocket that goes up to a planet with a robot that takes photos. They can't design the internet. They can't design AI. I wish we hadn't in some ways, but anyway, our intellect is of a different order. But when I say we're the most intellectual species to ever walk the planet, that doesn't mean we're the most intelligent. What intelligent species will systematically destroy its only home? There are some strange people. Elon Musk is convinced he's going to find a planet in his lifetime where humans can live. He's worried about decreasing the human population because he won't have enough people to transport to his new planet. But there aren't many people thinking like that. We all know we've only got this one beautiful planet, and we are destroying it. We are part of the natural world, and not only that, but we depend on it. But we depend on healthy ecosystems, and ecosystems are collapsing around the world in the face of climate change. We're losing biodiversity at a terrifying rate. The soil is being killed by industrial chemicals in industrial agriculture. I could talk for a very long time about what we're doing to the planet, but I don't think I need to. I think you all know. I've only recently been told by someone who spent 2 years investigating when will we reach the tipping point as concerns biodiversity loss, as concerns climate change, as concerns soil loss, as concerns this and this. And I've always said we have a window of time when if we get together, we can at least slow down climate change and loss of biodiversity and do something about these other problems that we've inflicted. I wasn't prepared to be told that the result of his investigations was we have 5 years. That doesn't mean that we reach the end of everything in 5 years. It means that after 5 years, it's going to be increasingly difficult to reverse the harm that we've done. So that's where we are today. The result of that exploration into the harm that we've inflicted on the planet was not a happy one. We still have time. Not surprising that as I was going around the world in those mid-80s, early 90s, I was meeting young people who seemed to have lost hope. And I talked to them, why do you feel like this? And they said, well, because you, older generations, you've compromised our future and there's nothing we can do about it. Have we compromised their future? Oh my goodness, we have compromised. We have been stealing their future, probably since the Industrial Revolution or even before. But is it too late? That's when I started the program Roots and Shoots for young people back in 1991, and it was a group of young Tanzanians, and we sat and talked about all the problems that they were worried about. And at that meeting, very significant meeting, Roots and Shoots was born, and we decided the main message was every single one of us, and that means every one of you in this room, every day we live, we make an impact on the planet, and we get to choose what sort of impact we make. Secondly, because everything is so interrelated, we decided that the young people would choose. They would choose, we wouldn't dictate, they would choose 3 projects, one to help people, one to help animals, one to help the environment. They didn't all have to do them all, but as a group, they had to do one of each. What began with 12 high school students and then a meeting of 30 with their friends is now in 71 countries. The most recent was Ukraine. And we have members from kindergarten through university. And I was just looking at some of the amazing projects done by Roots and Shoots in where am I? Which country am I in? I've been in so many. I think I'm in, where am I? For a moment I really did forget. No, I know I'm in Hong Kong really, but sometimes I wonder. So 10 years ago, a little film was made. And of course, Roots and Shoots has grown hugely since then. But I thought to show you this little tiny video so that it gives you a feeling of the kind of things young people choose to do. So if we can see that video.
You are the reason we found us, so thank you, stars. Some people think it's far away, some know it's with them every day. You are the reason we found out, so thank you, stars. There are no words that can blow it away on the air. When they try to blow it away is when you know it will always be there. To some it's the strength to be apart.
Very good job.
Hello.
To some it's a feeling in the heart. And when you're out there on your own, it's the way back home. So thank you, stars. So thank you, stars. So thank you,
So that video, as I say, was taken about 10 years ago. It's grown so much since then. Great thing about Roots and Shoots, it's flexible. So the projects chosen by children in an inner city in the US will be totally different from the projects chosen by an indigenous group of people in Colombia. And projects chosen by university students, of course, will be different from those chosen, or at least people help the kindergartners to choose their projects. But even kindergarten children, they know right away, do they want to do something to help the environment? Do they want to do something with animals? Or do they want to do something to help people? Children know from a very early age. So Roots and Shoots may be the best thing that I've contributed to this life. And as you can see in all these different countries where I've been, that too has been an exploration. Because every time I go to one of these countries, I'm learning about the culture there, I'm learning about the people, and very often I get a chance to learn about the wildlife, which of course is what I really want to do. So Roots and Shoots is still growing. It's growing across Hong Kong. I hope that you'll find out about it if you don't know about it. I hope that if you have children, you will find out more about Roots and Shoots so that they can join. Tony, who was up here helping with the video, who's down there, but Tony is our executive director, And we got the chairman sitting down in the front row. So that's Erickson Chan. And so, you know, I want to end by saying, people ask me all the time, do I have hope? We're going through dark times. We cannot deny that. And they're getting darker. And sometimes I feel, I wish I could give up. I wish that I could just retreat and disappear and curl up in a hole. But I can't. How do I carry on? I carry on because there is hope if, and it's a big if. There's a hope if we all do our bit, like it said in that video at the beginning of this talk. So we all have to do our bit. And it may seem, as many people say, well, if I pick up a bit of litter, so what? If it was just you picking up a bit of litter, it wouldn't make a bit of difference. But it's not just you. People around the world are waking up. People around the world are understanding the danger that we face. Hundreds and thousands of people are picking up bits of litter, and that cumulatively adds to a huge difference. So, yes, there is hope. Maybe we'll talk about that a bit later. But I do have my reasons for hope. And many of my reasons for hope are sitting out here in front of me. I will say, though, that my biggest reason for hope is the young people. Because once they understand the problems and we empower them to take action, it's not that they can change the world, they are changing the world every day, everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jane. It's really inspiring. Please stay on the stage first. Now, we are delighted to invite Professor Pauline Chiu, the Associate Vice President for Teaching and Learning, to come to the stage to have a chat with Dr. Jane. Pauline, please.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure for me to be here and to be able to have this chat with Dr. Jane Goodall. As I was listening to her story and also the work that she's done, it's simply amazing, so inspirational. Maybe I'll just first begin by saying your story really inspired me because I think, you know, today we would like to plan out our whole life. I want to know today, you know, there's a saying in these parts, you know, if you lose out when you're in kindergarten, you're like lost for life. But what I see from your life is that you went step by step and you followed your dreams. I was wondering if you can share more about following your dreams and that passion and that kind of motivation to inspire some of us here who are maybe a little bit worried about whether we would be able to follow our dreams.
Well, you know, it's a good question because, and it is getting harder. I'm not going to deny it. The world is a darker place than it was. But you see, I have one sort of thing to fall back on. I lived through World War II. During World War II, at a certain point, the whole of Europe was under the sway of Nazi Germany. Britain stood alone. We were not prepared for war. I was on the south coast. Our protection from the might of the German Navy was a little bit of barbed wire and some scaffolding. That was it. But there were men prepared to come out from the woodworks with pitchforks, and we had Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill was a flawed man in some ways, but he was the right leader for Britain in that time of war, because he roused the spirit of the British people so that there was this feeling, we will not be defeated. But honestly, there was no hope. There really wasn't. One of his famous speeches, is, we'll fight them on the beaches, we'll fight them in the forests, we'll fight them in the cities. He turned aside to a friend and said, and we'll fight them with the ends of broken bottles, because that's all we bloody well got. So, because it was hopeless, I was 6 years old at the time, but it wasn't hopeless. We, against all odds, won. He got America in. So I think that inspired in me, one, an understanding of human evil, but two, an understanding of miracles can happen. And there's always a way forward, and there's always hope.
So you mentioned hope a lot in your talk just now, and also it's in the recent books that you have written, I've noticed. I would like to just invite you also to speak more on hope. I think that seems to be a very favorite topic of yours in the recent years.
Well, why is it an important topic? Because if we lose hope, we fall into apathy. If we all lose hope and fall into apathy, we're doomed. And to me, hope isn't about wishful thinking. Hope is about action. And so my reasons for hope, I've mentioned one, the young people. And it's really true that all around the world, they truly are making a difference. My second reason for hope is the resilience of nature. We can utterly destroy a place. We can bring an animal to the brink of extinction. But with help, sometimes with time, then nature will come back and animals can be given a second chance. If you fly over Gombe National Park today, you don't see a little island of forest surrounded by bare hills. The trees have come back. And because the people understood saving the environment was important for their future. So that's the key thing there. And I've met so many places around the world where this holds true. And then this intellect, I've already talked about the fact that, this differentiates us from the animals. And we haven't been using our intellect wisely. But we're beginning to use it wisely. We're beginning to come up with, alternative energy and different ways of doing things to allow us to live in greater harmony with nature. And we've got a long way to go, but this brain, if we bring, one of the problems is, I like to think of human nature as at the mouth of a very long, very dark tunnel, and right at the end is a little star shining. That's hope. But it's no good sitting at the mouth of the tunnel, crossing our arms and hoping the star will come to us. We have to roll up our sleeves and get out there and climb over and crawl under and work around all the problems, the ones I've mentioned, the ones I haven't, that stand between us and the star. And that includes alleviating poverty, because people in poverty will destroy the environment to survive. And it definitely includes reducing unsustainable lifestyles. There's probably almost everybody in this room with an unsustainable lifestyle. I have an unsustainable lifestyle. But we can all try and do little things to make our lives less unsustainable. All of us can try. And then my next reason for hope is the indomitable human spirit, the people who tackle problems that seem impossible and are told, well, this is stupid, you can't do anything about that, but they don't give up and somehow they succeed. And those people, they're sometimes icons like Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, people like that. But then there are ordinary people, refugees who come in with nothing and somehow get their lives put together from a tiny beginning. They create a life for themselves, and they'll smile at you and tell you their story if you bother to talk to them. And then that's why I have Mr. H, because there are disabled people. Some of the disabled people I've met, and I meet many, 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 and I feel if I was them, I'd just curl up and hide. But they don't. They're out there, and by what they're doing, they're inspiring people. And Mr. H was given to me by a man who went blind when he was 21. He gave me Mr. H for my birthday 33 years ago. He thought he was giving me a stuffed chimpanzee for my birthday, and I held Mr. H up like this and made him reach out and hold the tail. Gary, chimps don't have tails. So he said, never mind, take him where you go, and you know I'm with you in spirit. So this man who went blind, he did skydiving, he did cross-country skiing, he went down with great white sharks. He said, unless you're blind, you cannot imagine the change in pressure of the water as this huge body goes by your cage. And the most amazing thing, he's taught himself to paint, and he's painted a picture of Mr. H. I'll try and send it here. He's never seen him, only felt him. And it's just one example of the indomitable human spirit.
Thank you. That's also extremely inspiring. I think in this part of the world, we know a certain saying or a phenomenon that the young people these days are lying flat. I mean, not young people, but it's a phenomenon. And I think that's partly a kind of reaction to, the problems that we are facing is just too huge for us to tackle. What can I do as one human being? But I think your stories and your sharing today really inspired us that there is something we can do. We start small. And I also am inspired by your saying that you're out there looking at people that also inspire you. And it's this really strong community of humanity that both we work together, we inspire, encourage each other, and we kind of move towards that hope. I mean, I'm just really, really grateful to have this conversation. But I don't want to hog the conversation. I think here we are going to open up the floor for some questions from the audience. So if you do have any, I think that Dr. Jane Goodall would be pleased to take them. So especially, I want to give a little bit of maybe privilege to the young people among us, because I think that is our future. So, I mean, we welcome all questions, but if there were young people with questions, we would love to take them. So you gotta raise your hand really high so that we can see them.
Right up there, look, first one.
Oh, over there. Okay, I think a mic will be brought to you. Is that right?
Upstairs.
Oh, they're up in the top.
And also up in the top. Wonderful.
Pauline, they're right up there.
Ah, I cannot almost.
They're in
Okay,
the
so
cheap
we'll take
seats.
that one first. Yes, a mic is coming to the gentleman there.
Good afternoon, Madam Goodall. First of all, it's been an honor to meet somebody that is shown on the textbook when I was little. It's really an honor. I think. So I'm greatly inspired by your story as how to keep your curiosity, how you find your target to eventually become who you are right now. So I'm asking that. So today, young people like me have limited space, limited time compared to you at your times, and also, but On the contrary, we are now overwhelmed with knowledge. So maybe there is a slight decline on why we are not trying to become scientists, because we simply does not have the space or the time. And for me, when I have my free time was in college, so I have limited options by that time. My question will be, so at the present, young people have limited time, limited space, but with too many knowledge for them to look for by themselves, how would you retain such passion or such curiosity to become a scientist or to become such great figure like you? Thank you.
Okay.
So,
the question is, maybe somehow some of our paths have become more narrow as we become older. That seems limiting. But how do we keep an open passion and curiosity going at every age, I suppose?
well, all I can say to you is, as I travel around the world 300 days a year, I meet young people who have this passion, this curiosity, and they keep it going, and they succeed. And many of them say, well, I had given up, but you came to my school, you gave a lecture, and I realized, thank you, Jane, I understand. Because you did it, I can do it too. So there's a way forward for all of us. The main thing is not to give up.
Thank you. So keep exploring and keep that passion going, huh? We have many other questions. So how about someone here? Yes. And then maybe over in the back as well. Okay, so maybe here first. I think we can take a few more questions. So here and then in the back. Can a mic be brought? Because we will not be able to hear the question. And also here. Microphone. I see a young person. Okay, up there. Okay, so first here, and then there, and then up in the second floor. Okay, so please.
Hi, what was your favorite thing you saw in Africa when you were visiting?
Sorry, can you repeat it? I can't hear.
What was your favorite thing when you visit Africa?
What's your favorite thing when you visited Africa? That young man asked.
I've got two favorite things. One is to go back to Gombe and see or hear about the activities of the chimpanzees, whose parents I knew so well. Number two is to see my grandchildren, who are all in Tanzania.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. And then I said this one, right? Yes, please.
Thank you, Dr. Goodall. My major is ECE, early childhood education. It's very surprising for you mentioned the factor that chimpanzee also take their baby until age of 5. So my question is, do you think the human ECE major could learn from those chimpanzee moms? Thank you.
Well, I think what we learn from chimpanzees, the reason Dr. Louis Leakey sent me to study chimpanzees was because he believed way ahead of his time that about 6 million years ago there was a common ancestor, chimp-like or ape-like, human-like. And so he thought, if Jane sees behavior in chimpanzees today and humans today that is similar or the same, possibly that was in the common ancestor 6 million years ago. He was studying or digging up the remains of the earliest humans. So he felt if Jane sees these similar behaviors, chimps and humans, probably those was also in early humans. That's what interested him. And so, in fact, you know, it was true. There were so many similar behaviors in humans and chimpanzees. And so, basically, I vindicated Louis Leakey's belief that we have a common ancestor. So, when we think about human violence today, there is a precedent, early humans were violent, chimpanzees are violent, we are violent, but we have got this different intellect. We should be able to control our behavior. We should be able to work together towards a world of peace.
Thank you. I said there and then second floor, right? Over there, please.
Good evening, Dr. Jane. So I'm just wondering, how do you communicate with the chimpanzees?
So is the question, how do you communicate with the chimpanzee?
Yes.
How do
Well, I never tried to communicate with them. I wanted to look in from the outside into the world of the chimpanzees. And so I never tried to communicate with them. However, in captivity, people have worked, chimpanzees have learned human sign language, chimpanzees have learned to punch out messages on lexicograms, and so we know a great deal about the way the chimpanzee mind works. But out in the field, I just wanted to be quiet and look through a window into the world of the chimpanzees.
Yes, no preconceptions about how to communicate with them, but just observe them. Yeah, very good. That
Hello.
over there? Yes.
Jane and
over there.
Gombe. I'm one from Netherlands. I'm a professor over there. And I was told by my PhD supervisor, you are my academic grandma. So I'm not sure that is true or not. I come here far away, just want to say thank you for your inspiration 40 years ago, the book you published, In the Shadow of the Man. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, questions up there from the secondary school students? Yes, please.
Hello, Dr. Jane. It has been a privilege to see you in person. So I'm Tiffany, a secondary school student from the Leah Memorial School Glee Path. I heard about your story since primary school, so it had been one of my dreams to see you in person. I'm very happy to see you. And there's one question that I want to ask you, which is, what is one word that you would like to give out to teenagers like us? Thank you.
One word for teenagers out there. What would be your one word for them?
Well, my one word to you would be what I've already said. Never forget, you are on this world for a reason. You have a mission. You may not know what it is, but you do. And just remember that every single day you live, every action you take makes some impact. So think about the actions you make and try and inspire your peers, your mothers, your fathers, your teachers to understand that what they do each day also makes a difference. I think that's the most important thing I can say. You, as an individual, you matter.
It will be the last question.
Okay, last question. Yes. Here in the, how about all these questions? How about, they're young people, so let's have two, okay? One here and then one here, all right? So,
And they can send their questions in to JGI.
sorry?
They can send their questions in to JGI.
Oh, so Dr. Jane Goodall is offering that you can send your questions to her afterwards to the Institute, and she will answer them later, because there are so many questions in this wonderful audience. So how about one and one? And that will be, unfortunately, I think all that we have time for, right? One here and one, oh, here, sorry.
I wanted to ask, what is the quality you think you need most as a scientist?
Very sophisticated question. What is the quality that is most important for a scientist?
I think the most important quality is you're after the truth. You want to discover truth. You don't want to have your discoveries. Some people, they find out the truth, but then their university or whatever tells them, well, this really isn't something that anybody wants to hear, so don't talk about it. I think the most important thing today is to tell truth, to tell truth, to tell truth. And not to look for all your answers with AI or Google.
I think that's a wonderful question and answer to end our talk on today. Unfortunately, I tried to squeeze more time out, but I'm told there isn't. But as Dr. Jane Goodall has just said, please send your questions in. And I think that they will be answered, and you can get Jane's perspective on your various questions. And yes, let's seek after the truth. That's what we're all here for. So.
Thank you, everyone. Dr. Jane and Pauline, please stay on the stage. As the event is coming to the end, we are honored to invite Dr. Wong Hao Man, the Chair Explorer of the Center, to give an ending remark.
Well, thank you very much, Jane. I'm so pleased this evening to hear that Jane mentioned the word explore so many times. And that's the essence of what this center is about, curiosity and exploration. However, perhaps one of the probably most mistaken translation from English into Chinese is actually the word exploration. In Chinese, it means looking for danger. Now, I'm very much alive after 50 years of exploration, and you can see that from Jane too. Now, Jane and I also had one common friend, which is at the National Geographic. Even though that I arrived at the National Geographic 20 years after she did. We shared the same photo editor, Mary Smith. And Mary mentioned to me 3 people that she admired the most. One is Louis Leakey, the other is George Schaller, and this one is Jane Goodall. Before I met Jane, I only have read about her work. And then around 25 years ago, I had the great fortune to introduce her and host her for a dinner when she came to Hong Kong to speak for the Royal Geographical Society. And at the dinner, she bring out the little box of donation, and she was so happy, even with small donation, and I was very impressed by that. Now, I have this is a graphic novel I bought around 10 years ago from Swindon, Kelly and Walsh. It's only 200 Hong Kong dollars, 25 US. It means, however, it inspires a lot of young people, all right? So don't discount this because many of her work is actually inspiration to the next generation. And for I to say that, the last thing I want to say is that when I have been asked, since I work in China since 1974, what it takes to become an explorer. My standard answer all along has been, you show me a 3-year-old kid and I show you an explorer about their curiosity. From this evening on, when I'm asked that question again, I would say, show me a 3-year-old kid and show me also a 90-year-old Jane. Thank you very much, Jane.
Hao Man and Pauline, please stay on the stage. Professor Collins, please come onto the stage to present a souvenir to Chairman Erickson Chan. Derek, please. This is the end of the event. Thanks again for coming. Additionally, the Wong Hao-Man Center for Exploration will collaborate with the JGI and the Lee Hysan Foundation to organize an exploration trip to Shangri-La, Yunnan, Tibetan area, exclusive for high school teachers. Details will be announced by JGI later. Outside the ground hall, there's an exhibition called Roots and Shoots by Dr. Goodall's book Charity Sale. You are welcome to visit. Thanks again for joining us.